Hi guys, it's Vanessa coming to you from the garden just northwest of Austin, Texas in the burbs. And today I'm going to tell you about my favorite way to protect my fall leafy greens from the cabbage looper. And if you have ever grown any leafy greens in the South, you have probably noticed there's a lot of holes in the leaves of your plants. Those holes can look like this. Typically that's created by either a beetle or the cabbage moth. So this is my favorite DIY that's super easy to do and organically protects your brassicas and leafy greens without having to spray anything on them, including BT, which is a great organic option, but it's not great for pollinators that start out as caterpillars. So this is a very inexpensive DIY. It requires no actual tools and no real knowledge of any type of construction. And it starts with getting some mosquito netting or some tulle from the fabric store. Mosquito netting to me is a little more cost effective sometimes, but you can get different colors of the tulle. The tulle that's black actually looks a little bit nicer when it's in the garden if you're worried about the way that your garden looks. And then you have some options as far as making a covering for your beds. Let me go over and show you how I've put together a few different options so you can get some ideas or inspiration on how to do this. And this is a really simple, like 5-minute DIY, and it can be useful for all different kinds of purposes. So this is one of my 4-foot by 4-foot garden in minutes beds, and you'll see it has the irrigation grid down in here. So this is pretty much on automation mode, and this is basic super floppy PVC. Now this is not your normal PVC you find in the PVC area. It's typically found in the electrical or the plumbing areas of Home Depot and Lowe's, and it's just more bendy. This is a piece of regular PVC that I already had, and this is electrical tape. And this just gives me more of a platform to put my mosquito netting over, but this is just shoved in the soil. Like, it's not attached to anything. I can remove it if I need to, and it also acts as a frost protectant cover as well. And however long you cut these pieces, you can make this taller if the plants get taller. So that's one way that you can do this. And then you can actually use irrigation polytubing to make it look a little bit nicer, because the white PVC and the electrical tape are not very fancy looking. So let me show you what it looks like when it's in black. And this is what it looks like in black. Now I actually just spray painted this, but polytubing that comes in a roll, and it's like $10 for the roll, can actually do the same job as this. Now it's important to note that if you have plants that need pollination and need an insect to come and actually pollinate them, then you're going to be blocking them from getting that pollination. So you'll either need to do hand pollination, or you will need to take the covers off during a certain time of day. But in the fall, we have very little things that actually need that pollination, and I tend to plant flowers outside of the areas where I'm going to be putting leafy greens, just so I can make sure I can cover my leafy greens and pollinators can still get the nectar they need before the winter time. Now, one of those flying insects that may still be hanging around in your garden that you would need to hand pollinate the plant for is known as the squash vine borer. Now, we're well into October, so the squash vine borer moth usually isn't super active, but with the warmer days, they still can hang around. If you are trying to grow a plant like zucchini or summer squash, then you can cover it with this netting in the same method, but you'll need to lift it up and hand pollinate in the morning when the flowers are open. I wanted to take a moment to share with you one of my shirts that's part of my merch line. So the shirt itself says Harbinger of Death, because the squash vine borer moth is genuinely the bringer of death when it comes to squash. My friend, who is an amazing digital artist, helped design this shirt with me, so this is a collaboration between us. It has beautiful squash flowers, a zucchini, a squash vine borer moth, which is a beautiful bug in general, but is just so destructive. And it has the larva of the squash vine borers boring out of the plant. Now, the back of this shirt, because we went for a death metal band tour theme, is actually a band t-shirt. So we named it the Endless Summer Tour, and you'll see that we picked varieties of squash as the names of the locations where the tour will be held. The Endless Summer Tour is exactly what it feels like when the squash vine borer is still here. We know there's a lot of elder millennials out there that garden, and so me and my good friend, who is an amazing digital artist, designed this shirt. I just think it's a really cool shirt, and I think you guys would think it's a really cool shirt too. So I'll have a link to this in the description of this video. Now this looks a little bit nicer in my opinion for covering, and this is just the harder PVC with PVC connectors. The goal is just to find pieces that are just a 1/4 inch bigger than the actual PVC that you have. I get 4 1/4 pieces like this. I just shove the hard piece into the corner and then connect it each corner. These are spray painted black, so they look a little bit nicer. And one thing you could do if you feel like your netting is drooping too much in the center is put a T piece in the middle here and run a bar this way. And I'll show you what that T-piece looks like. This is what you would run just going across here, and you could put another piece that way. Let's go ahead and put some of this mosquito netting on because I'm getting a little bit of chomping from some caterpillars. So the clips I'm using to put this mosquito netting on, this is a Dollar Tree clip. They carry them year round. Then these are cheap greenhouse clips that are just off of Amazon. So you have a lot of different options here. You can even use clothespins.
So I just put this right over it, and I leave a little bit excess hanging over the edges, but you can clamp this on the edge of the bed. You can clamp it just to the PVC tubing. You could even use metal conduit if you want to reduce the amount of plastic that you're putting in the garden.
We'll cut the excess off of this mosquito netting, and then this piece will just stay with this bed until I'm ready to take it off. You can water straight through this. I have the irrigation grid, so everything is watered internally underneath here.
And this is what it looks like to set up one of the Garden in Minutes grids. It basically comes prefabbed. They have them custom to just about any size of garden bed. There's even ones that go with round edge beds, but these came to match the beds that were also from Garden in Minutes. Now you can order these manifolds because I'm connecting multiple beds together. You can kind of do this however you see fit. This is just what worked for the setup that I designed for the garden redo. And then it comes with a riser that then you can connect to extend it. That connects to either your hose or this manifold. And then I connect my hose to the bottom of the manifold. The manifold is cool because I can adjust the pressure, and these grids are awesome because they need as little as a 10 psi pressure from your water spigot to be able to actually adequately water. So this is me just testing it out. When I first get these grids out of the box, sometimes I need to make sure I turn them and flatten them in a way that they don't spray everywhere. And then I can go in and adjust how much water does this bed need versus how much water the bed right next to it needs. So this is what it looks like before I really planted out this bed, and this is what the area looks like when I have it perfectly set. And then once the plants grow in, things water really well underneath there, so I don't have to worry about things not being properly irrigated without me messing with them.
Nothing needs pollination, and I can easily see what's going on with my plants through this netting, and rain can get through as well. Now, one thing to note is that cabbage moths are not very smart, and they're not going to try really hard to land and crawl up into your netting. So just a gentle barrier can help you a lot with these types of pests. So this is not even clipped on here. I have two of the simple PVC hoops on this smaller Garden in Minutes bed. This is a 2x4 foot bed. And I have some marigolds that I've left out here because the monarchs are coming to, have a little bit of nectar right now. And then all I did was tie a knot at the end of this, and it's just kind of stretchy and tension base. And then I can just slide it up and back down if I want to. And this is just one of the more simpler ways of doing this system. I have to apologize right now because every single one of my neighbors thinks that they need to mow their lawn. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how having these simple covering frames on top of garden beds, whether they're in ground or raised or even over some of your pots, is a really great way in Texas specifically to be able to pop on a covering that can help you create a microclimate, which allows us to extend our seasons. And I say seasons as in all the little micro seasons that we get within our long growing season. So I get asked all the time, how are you growing this at this time? It's because I put up a little covering and I have a light shade cloth on the top of it. I didn't have the right shade cloth. That was a little too heavy of a shade cloth. I threw over a bed sheet. It depends on how much you care about the way your garden looks, but you can do this in a way that looks nice, or you can keep it super basic and affordable. Now, one thing also to consider is these are really great frames to keep on from this transitional fall season going into the winter months. I like to put a pretty heavy frost cloth over these if I have things that are new, young little sprouts that I've just seeded out, if we get something down into the teens. And I have also wrapped incandescent Christmas lights around these frames, which really helped me get some ambient heat. And that was only on plants that I was just like super invested in and not sure how well they would do with some of the crazy drops that we get. So with some simple irrigation tubing, PVC, or even some hula hoops cut in half, you can have some nice little coverings for your beds. And I hope this video has inspired you to grow more things year round, because remember, if you never grow, you'll never know.